Great afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. You're welcome to get yourselves comfortable, maybe get a journal and a pen out. If you want to take some notes, you're absolutely welcome to do that. Let me know in the chat where you're streaming in from, please, so I can see who is here today. Always great to have these community meetings. I'm so grateful for them. Salome from Frankfurt, Germany. Thanks so much for joining us, Salome. Doris from NYC. Thank you. Great to have you here. I'm actually from Costa Rica, or living in Costa Rica now, streaming live for the jungle. Marius from Romania. Hey, I don't think we've ever had anyone from Romania here. I love it. Okay, more people are coming in. I'm so grateful to have you all here. My name is Shiri Godasi. I'm a psychedelic integration therapist, and I'm Nectara's Director of Integration. And I'm here today to share with you vital and potentially life-changing information. If you're here, you probably understand how life-changing psychedelics, plant medicines can be. And of course, this is because we know that psychedelic journeying is all a co-creation. We're creating new possibilities, new realities in collaboration with greater consciousness or tools of consciousness. There are technologies that can be implemented into this collaboration to really make the most out of it, to minimize harm, and of course, to amplify benefits. And that's why we're here. We're going to do a Q&A at the end. So if you have anything that you'd like to ask, you're welcome to stick around till the end. A quick disclaimer that anything that is shared here today is for informational purposes only. Myself are not encouraging anyone to partake with illicit substances or partake with illegal activities. Ayahuasca is indeed legal in many parts of the world, and yet illegal in more parts than otherwise. So please be mindful to use this space respectfully. Do not try to procure illegal medicine or try to ask for names of facilitators or anything like that. Okay, thanks so much for respecting our community space. So without further ado, let's get started. Our topic today is integration of ayahuasca experiences. I'm curious, people that are here with us live, if you can let me know in the chat if you're maybe planning on heading out to a ceremony, maybe you're returning from a retreat, maybe you're just curious. I want to know what your level of experience with ayahuasca specifically is. Let me know. Let's see. Andrea, back from a retreat 3 weeks ago, still super fresh. Julia was on one retreat 1 month ago, her first one. Wow. Okay, so lots of recovery happening here today. Yes, we have Andrea also saying we're still integrating from last March. Absolutely. Integration of ayahuasca can take many months and even quite a few years. Salome is also preparing for a retreat in December. So let's get started. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. What's ayahuasca? So a quick overview for those of you who may be less familiar with this plant medicine. So it is a master Amazonian plant brew that consists of 2 main plants. The Banis, I always get this one wrong, Banisteriopsis caapi, the vine, or the vine of the dead, as they call it in the jungle, in combination with the tricuna leaves. The combination of these 2 plants is what creates the unique effects of ayahuasca. Again, it's a plant brew that's been used in South America in shamanic traditions for many years. The context of use has been typically as religious sacrament, for devotional purposes, for emotional and physical healing and cleansing and spiritual ascension, family and community strengthening, and of course, just to strengthen the connection with the spirit world. And in this particular technology, the curandera or curandero, or the maestro or the maestra, some people call them the shaman, We really call them a teacher, right? And that's what maestro or maestro is. They serve the role of the healer, the mediator, the doctor, the communicator with the spirit world. So they act as a channel, as a receiver of healing codes that are encoded in ayahuasca. They receive the codes of healing through ayahuasca, and then they translate these codes into sound and music and vibration, and that's what heals, right? That's how ayahuasca heals in shamanism. And really what they are is the leaders of these ceremonies in indigenous cultures. They're the keepers of spiritual wisdom. They're the keepers of cultural traditions and ancient healing technologies that are arguably beyond the limitations of newer or new world technologies like science. Nevertheless, ayahuasca has been made popular in the West through the Santo Daime tradition, which is a Brazilian tradition, and of course the União de Vegetal, which are both from South America. They, in 2006 in the United States, began receiving permission from the DEA to partake with ayahuasca as religious sacrament. But underground groups and varying styles of ayahuasca shamanism have been operating for many years all over the world, likely for decades. And of course, the popularity of ayahuasca among Westerners has rapidly been multiplying over the past 15 years. But retreat centers have been operating in South America for many years. And like many of you here, Westerners attend 5 days, 7 days, 10-day retreats for various reasons. Seeking a breakthrough, getting unstuck, maybe healing various physical and or mental health conditions like trauma, like depression, like addictions, like autoimmune diseases, like cancer, maybe looking to find their purpose, maybe looking to find answers to life's bigger questions, finding God, or maybe just trying it out, right? With that, I want to preface with there is absolutely nothing wrong with attending a retreat just for the fun of it and not needing to integrate anything. However, I also need to say that it's pretty hard to imagine drinking ayahuasca for fun. Out of all the psychoactive substances, ayahuasca may be at the top 3 most uncomfortable and testing of medicines, meaning it's going to test your physical capacity, your mental capacity, your ability to care for your basic human needs while exploring the farthest corners of the cosmos, the galaxy, the underworld. It's going to test your ability to trust. So today we're here to discuss how to integrate the ineffable and magnificent experience of ayahuasca, specifically to create real change in our lives. This is our intention here today. What is integration? Quick overview of this very popular or trendy word is it's a therapeutic modality that helps people or supports people that undergo psychedelic and plant medicine experiences whose aim is to reduce potential harm and to amplify potential benefits. And the purpose of integration is to embed the peak experience into our ongoing routine in a healthy and sustainable way. And these are really key words here: sustainability, health, wellness, while leveraging the expanded awareness, the myriad of insights, and of course, the wisdom that's gained in ceremony into tangible and positive change. And the potential with that is to improve our physical wellness, our emotional wellness, of course, our habits and our lifestyle, our relationships, the way we allow love in, the way that we engage with our family and with our home, our vocation, our creative expression, our sense of connection and really finding meaning in life. And all of these can change with healthy and sustainable integration. And this will all ultimately lead us to living a happy, healthy, and free life. This is, when I state all these things, again, family, vocation, home, finances, what's the bottom line? What are we all trying to do and be here? Be happy, healthy, and free. And also to inspire others to live a similar life. But many people believe that integration is something that's done after an experience. However, Nektara's philosophy is that the process of integration begins the moment that the seedling of the ceremony, of the idea of going into ceremony, is planted in our mind, right? When we hear the call, right? When we read about this news article and we hear about how this person healed their PTSD with ayahuasca, and we're like, oh, that sounds interesting. I'd like to explore that. Integration begins right there. When you hear the call, and from that moment, basically what happens is that we become preoccupied with materializing the idea, with realizing this calling, with participating. We begin to participate in creating the experience, right? How does the idea of, I think I want to sit in ceremony, how does that actually happen? You have to take steps to make that happen. You begin doing research, you begin maybe asking friends, you look online, you read reviews, you look at your calendar. When can I go? How am I paying for this? What's going to happen afterwards? This is all integration. You're literally integrating the idea. You're taking steps to make it real in your life. So integration actually begins with preparation for ceremony. And preparation is the first stage of integration. Now, why is preparation, it really needs, specifically with ayahuasca, I mean, this is really with any psychedelic and plant medicine, preparation is such a, really it sets you up for success in more ways than we can talk about right now. We've had classes on this. You're welcome to find them in Nektara's membership area. But specifically for ayahuasca, why is preparation so important? Well, for ayahuasca specifically, it's not a suggestion. I would even call it more of a requirement. Right? We know that when we sign up to ceremony, we're required, for example, to follow a very specific, very clear dieta, right? A diet, not just a food diet, but an energetic and a spiritual diet. We begin eliminating certain things from our lives because these compounds from food, for example, there are some foods and of course certain substances, drugs, pharmaceuticals, that in some cases, the combination of the compounds in food, the pharmaceuticals, in combination with the enzymes of ayahuasca can lead to dangerous and even fatal outcomes. So the guidelines for the Dieta, and by the way, we do have at Nektara an incredible preparation program. If you're a member, you have access to it. I'm going to put the link for it in the chat a little later, but we discuss it extensively, the Dieta, and provide very specific guidelines on how to support yourself when preparing for ayahuasca retreats. Of course, every retreat center and curandera will also have their own guidelines to support their respective healing technology. Clear that beyond just the dangerous interactions, the idea is to begin clearing the physical vessel / your body and removing obstacles so that the medicine, the ayahuasca brew, and the curandera can work better. And the Dieta, really, we can also look at it as a study, right? As a discipline. And it's the beginning of a physical and emotional and spiritual relationship with the plant, with the plants. Actually, with the brew, the spirit of ayahuasca, but it's really, again, we said it's a combination of two plants. So ayahuasca, again, we begin in preparation, we begin the spiritual discipline, we begin getting in dialogue with the medicine by purifying our body, right? Our spiritual body, emotional body, our mind body, the physical body, of course. But we're really approaching, again, the ceremony, the ceremonial container. When we actually sit in the maloka, for example, we sit on the mat with our bucket in front of us. That's a spiritual container for the work or for the technology, right? It's where the work takes place and it's contained by different interventions that the facilitator, the maestro, maestra, curate to protect the space and to create that container so the work remains held. So that's about preparation. Again, that's the first stage of integration. I want to begin looking at the arc of transformation of ayahuasca because it's so unique, and specifically the unique hallmarks of the ayahuasca experience and how to integrate them. As with any plant medicine, and of course, synthetic psychedelics, you've heard me say this a million times. The only thing that is predictable is how unpredictable they are. We always get what we need and not what we want. Just like Mick Jagger, you can't always get what you want. Mick Jagger is like the ultimate deity of ayahuasca. Okay? You're not going to get what you want. You're going to get what you need. This is, again, true for all psychedelic compounds, trips, journeys, what have you, okay? It's even more true with ayahuasca. Why? Because the depth and breadth of this medicine are, as far as I know, and I've journeyed with many medicines. I do have to say this like tongue in cheek. I've never experienced iboga, and I know iboga is also a huge experience. As far as almost any other medicine, the depth and breadth of ayahuasca are unmatched. With that, it seems that there are hallmark checkpoints, characteristics in the ayahuasca experience that can be really helpful to understand as you navigate the long-term transformational process with ayahuasca as a tool. Now, notice that I say long-term. And when I say long-term, I don't mean a 5-day retreat. I mean like long-term as in weeks and months and years. And here's why. The recommendation with ayahuasca is, first of all, to view it as a relationship. Well, really, any psychedelic, everything in life is relationships, to be honest. Our relationship, of course, to medicine is a type of relationship. With ayahuasca, you want to look at it as a long-term partnership. Why? Because ayahuasca employs what I call the root canal approach. It will take you through the scenic route to make sure that your intentions are met. As an example, you can set an intention with this medicine, and then it can show you things that seem completely irrelevant to this intention. And then 10 or 15 ceremonies later, you get that aha moment, and then you understand why exactly things happened the way they did ceremony to ceremony, and why there was a need to show you all these things before you get that clear understanding of how your intention is met. Typically, it can take multiple ceremonies for an intention to materialize. So what I'm suggesting is to manage your expectations and be patient. There will be unclear insights, and you're going to learn to be patient by waiting for things to be cleared up on their own. Most people, once they go to a retreat, they realize that they want to come back or need to come back. Another reason for that is because ayahuasca, it's not a surface level awareness. Like, I'm going to give the example of MDMA, which is an incredible medicine. Love that medicine. I've sat with it more times than I can count. MDMA, I would call it, I view it as more of like a surface level healing. Okay. There's a lot of mind and heart for sure, but it also has puts like a pink glaze over your eyes. It's not necessarily rooted. It doesn't have the root canal approach. Okay. There's an awareness, there's a heart space, but is it a change from the gut? Definitely not like ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is a cellular level decoding and recoding. It changes your gene expression, or it provides an opportunity for you to change your gene expression. There's a whole scientific field about that called epigenetics. You can look it up. USC specifically in Southern California is studying epigenetics. It can literally break generational links. And that's why it's called the medicina. And that's why it can heal cancer. Because again, it's an antibacterial, antifungal. It's an earth medicine that clears not just your energetic body, but your physical body. Typically, we begin with the physical clearing of food toxins, mind-body clutter, energies, or anything that gets in the way of the healing energies of the medicine that wants to pass through. And that means that for a lot of people, if we're approaching ceremony after, let's say we live in Los Angeles, we just landed in Peru, let's say we live a stressful lifestyle, suddenly you're finding yourself in the jungle, you're coming in with a lot of energies from the city. It's going to be like an onion approach. There's going to be more purging, again, more clearing of just like helping you settle in. And the whole idea, again, of the clearing or the purging, and the way I invite you to begin integrating that, because for some people, and by the way, like purging is like the hallmark experience of ayahuasca, but if you didn't purge, it doesn't mean that it didn't work. Okay? Just also want to say that. But let's talk about the purging for a moment, because it's such like a big deal in ayahuasca. So again, you're purging toxins, purging food, purging energy, right? So when you think about your ceremony, you want to integrate your ayahuasca ceremony. I invite you to think about, was the purging easy, and was I just able to let go and just allow the purging to take place? Or did I find myself holding back? Did I find myself embarrassed? Maybe I didn't want to make a sound. Maybe I didn't want to disturb the space. Maybe I felt ashamed. Maybe I literally couldn't hold it together. I was a mess. I needed assistance. People came to help me. I couldn't even get myself to the bathroom. I remember like in my first ayahuasca ceremony, I met a person he was like saying it with pride, how like 4 ceremonies in, he hasn't purged at all. And he was like wearing it like a badge of honor. Right. So basically, like, how do you relate to the purging that took place or didn't take place? Okay. So that's going to be a really good insight for you, again, about your ability to allow them to let go, I think is the best word, and how you're able to conduct yourself in relation to others and be vulnerable. Right. So that's the first step. And then, of course, the physical discomfort, which is, again, another hallmark experience in ayahuasca. When we think of the cleansing and the purification factors, of course, there is a blessing in it. It could also be the challenge. So we can come back from ceremony feeling like very ungrounded physically, or just very uncomfortable. We feel like something's different. Maybe we're feeling extremely tired and run down. Maybe there's physical pain. So the idea here, as far as integration, again, when you return from ceremony and you're like, okay, like I feel super weird. So my recommendation would be to focus on embodiment activities, right? You really want to think about, when we think of our experience as spirits undergoing a human experience, how many bodies do we have? Okay, everyone's aware of the physical body that we're in right now. In shamanism, we're also aware of the spirit body, the emotional body, the mind body, the heart body, and of course, the physical. So that's 6 bodies right there. And imagine that medicines and ayahuasca can literally work on all these different bodies and kind of maybe even take them apart to purify each of them individually. And when you come back, right, you come back home, sometimes it could feel like you're kind of all over the place. Well, it's exactly this, because all these different bodies, maybe they haven't fully returned. Does that make sense? Like there are parts of you that are still kind of like maybe out there. So you want to think grounding. You want to think about returning. You want to think about maybe laying on the ground, okay, laying on the grass, eating hearty foods like potatoes, like meat, like soup. Like good nourishing cooked foods is really great. Embodiment practice like tapping, right? Emotional freedom, it's called EFT, tapping. Some forms of yoga, and I say some forms because some of them are very grounding and other forms are actually meant to kind of take you out of the body. Showering, so you could feel like the water pouring on you, and the contact really helps with, again, getting you back in your body. Taking a hot bath. Taking care of your human. This is such a big part of integration, because once you get into the space and you realize how limitless your spirit is, the journey becomes more about like, let me take care of my human so my spirit can soar free. And then I feel super grounded in my human experience while being limitless in all my other bodies. Okay, so grounding will really help with the physical discomfort. Okay, next, visions, especially with ayahuasca. And I want to also preface, if you didn't have visions, it doesn't mean that it didn't work. Please don't be attached to visions in any psychedelic, the proof that your psychedelics worked. Specifically with ayahuasca, let's say that you did have visions. The visions typically involve the ayahuasca tapestry patterns, right? Sometimes we see visions of the animal kingdom, serpents, jaguars, eagles, right? Animal totems. And then sometimes we're going to see nonsensical visions like clowns or these mechanics. I remember I used to have lots of mechanics in my journeys, masks, but things that are nonsensical. And the way to integrate those, or maybe some people need to understand why seeing these things. First of all, not everything needs to be understood. Everything needs to be integrated. That's another rule of thumb. But let's say that you need to know. Sometimes in ayahuasca, we're going to get nonsensical, what I call ayahuasca entertainment, while deep clearing and healing is taking place on one of the different bodies that we talked about. And the human part of us needs to be, okay, like needs to know, where are my visions? Where am I this? So ayahuasca gives it to us. Here you go. You get to look at clowns for the next 3 hours while I work on releasing this intergenerational trauma from your liver. And it's going to take me a couple of ceremonies to do that. So in the meantime, you get to watch clowns. Okay, ayahuasca can appease us in this way. You know, there's a lot of symbolism in ayahuasca. And again, let's go back to the idea of seeing a jaguar or a snake, right? Which is very common. And if you want to know, okay, why am I seeing a jaguar? Okay, one way to look at it is look at it as an archetype. Okay, look at the symbol. And again, this is all in the integration, not necessarily while in the journey. Okay, this is post-ceremony. What are the characteristics of this vision or this symbol? And what does a jaguar signify archetypally? And when I say archetype, we know, right? Typically, generally, the consensus is that jaguars are powerful animals. They're predators. You don't want to mess with them. They're fast. We can all agree on that. One time I went on a trip to Colombia and a jaguar almost bit me. There's going to be like the human stories that we have attached to all these symbols. And in that sense, you really, again, you want to identify the archetypes of the symbol or the vision, and then identify yourself where you are in relation to that symbol or vision. And that will give you a really important thread to making meaning of your visions and symbols. So again, it's less what you saw, more of how you felt about it. Because, you know, right now we have a dozen people in this room. We can all be sitting in the same ceremony and see the same snake, serpent, and we each take something completely different out of it. Why? Because of our relationship to the vision. So, and again, if you've been on my classes before, you've heard me say this a million times, because these are the foundations of integration for me. It's all about your relationship to everything, to the insights, to the medicine, to the community, right? So that's how you integrate visions and symbols. Spirits and entities, okay, another hallmark experience of ayahuasca. Not only, but again, very common. Sometimes they're there for a purpose, right? Healing, teaching, guiding. Sometimes it's plain old trickster energy. What is a trickster? Something that's meant to provoke you. Okay, and then what do you do with that? How do you feel about it? How do you conduct yourself in relation to it? Now, the thing is that not every entity is a good entity, and vice versa. Right? Some are positive spirits, and there are negative spirits out there for sure, but we don't always know what the intention is, right? So in integration, if we want to, again, work with the spirits or entities that we saw on the journey, the way to work with them would be to invite them in through dream work, through meditation, and ask them questions. Literally be in dialogue with them as if they are here with you. And sometimes they still will be there with you. Sometimes we see our spirit guides in ceremony, and the spirit guides are always available to us, no matter if you're in the jungle or, again, in your house in Romania, right? So you can journal to them, you can pray to them, you can ask for their guidance. And then also on that note, like the flip side of it, we know that also there is black magic that happens in the ayahuasca world. And again, sometimes the entities are very negative. And in that case, rarely, but it definitely happens, you may be feeling that there was a negative entity attached to you for some reason, then you may require shamanic intervention to remove that entity. Okay, next hallmark, dying. Anyone here died in ceremony before? Let me know in the chat. Yeah, a bunch of us, for sure. The vine of the dead. Okay? This is what ayahuasca is called, the vine of the dead, the capi vine. What is dying exactly? More than anything, we can look at it as identity loss. Okay? We can look at it as a lesson in relinquishing fear and trusting. Who are you when you are nobody? Will you cease to exist? What is possible when you actually don't remember your name? I remember my first ceremony. This was 2012, something like that. Maybe, yeah, no, 14, I think. 10 years, more than 10 years ago. I literally remember just being in a space where there was nothing. It was like in a world of question marks. I couldn't remember where I was, who I was, no name, absolutely nothing. And then once you get over the shock of, oh my God, I'm nothing, right? You're going to discover that you're everything. When you become nothing, you become everything, right? There's possibility. So, but the idea of dying is obviously not a comfortable idea or an experience for a lot of us. But I encourage you, those of you who did go through that, and also this is every psychedelic, really, we've had the ego death experience, right? Just look at it as, you can look at it as an invitation to just let go of everything you thought you needed to be and open up the pathway to who you're meant to be. Okay, another hallmark of the ayahuasca experience. This is a huge one, okay? Projections of the mother complex. How many of you have called or even just have heard other people calling ayahuasca she, mother, abuela, right? What we're doing here is we're attributing human characteristics on a plant spirit consciousness. There is no gender to ayahuasca. It's a plant spirit consciousness. However, again, culturally, right, we attribute, again, we try to humanize from our very limited perception of like, we need things to be like us to understand them. We need things to be like us so we can understand them better. A lot of us are holding in a lot of feelings about our parents, right? There's a whole idea of, and the personal development journey about forgiving the past and forgiving our parents. And a lot of us go in to heal that anger, to heal the disappointment, to heal the shame. We want to have better relationships with our parents if we're even lucky that they're alive, right? So if we believe that, if we have some internal belief or memory that our relationship with our own mother was punitive, was criticizing, was abusive, maybe she was loving, maybe she was forgiving, actually, right? There could be a whole spectrum of how we feel about our mother. Whatever we feel about our own mother, whatever relationship we have with our own mother, generally it's projected onto ayahuasca. Okay? So basically, a lot of us will be coming in looking for the good mother. the good mother that we needed, that we hoped for. We needed to be validated by her. We needed to be seen by her. But also we go in because we know that it's time to cut the cord, as they say, right? To detangle from her, to break through the emotional and energetic enmeshment, to differentiate from our parents. But when we go in again and we have this relationship with Mother Ayahuasca, and she becomes like a mother to us, right? And it's like we explore our own relationship with our primary caregivers, with this plant, with this brew, with this entity. This is one of the archetypes of ayahuasca, right? Cultural archetype. Culturally, we look at ayahuasca as a mother, and therefore a lot of us will go in thinking, oh, there's a Mother Ayahuasca, and unconsciously just project all of our stuff on the plant, on the spirit. This can be a sign of complex early childhood trauma, or as we call it, relational trauma. The relationship we have with the plant consciousness is an iteration of our current relational dynamics we have with our primary caregiver. I'm going to talk about this more a little bit later. I want to state that, again, is one of those hallmark, unique instances with ayahuasca specifically that stand to be integrated. Another part in the transformational arc of ayahuasca is that it's going to uncover deeply seated memories, individual and collective stories, occurrences, and trauma. It's going to reveal the truth about who you are. It's going to make you face repressed feelings we've been holding on to, right? We're going to face our pain, face the anger, face the guilt, face the shame, face the fear, and really face our fear of what? Of losing control. Everyone's greatest fear of psychedelics is losing control, because it means that we're going to have to let it all go. And then if we let it all go, what's going to come out? What's going to come out, right? And that's the next thing, the next hallmark experience of ayahuasca is the letting go, right? When you're literally like facing this plant consciousness, and it's so powerful, right? And you realize like the only way out is through, right? I'm meeting this plant. It's so powerful. It wants me to completely surrender. Otherwise, it's going to be a disaster, AKA bad trip, lots of suffering, and God forbid, a psychotic breakdown. Okay, that's what happens when there is resistance. So we practice letting go of resistance. But what are we really letting go of? Okay, again, we said resistance. We're really letting go of yourself, okay? Of who you thought you needed to be. Letting go of your fears, of your safety blankets, of anything that is clouding your highest authentic self. Your unresolved emotional baggage, your expectations, your hopes and your dreams, everything that they promised us. I'm saying this, maybe it's our parents, maybe it's our community, our culture, society at large, right? They promised us something and they didn't deliver. It turned out to be a huge lie, it turned out to be an illusion. So then like the bubble is just going pop. It's like the bubble is bursting. Letting go of any regrets, letting go of things that have never been and will never be. Letting go of all the promises and everything that you hoped about life and realizing that, man, maybe it will never happen. What then? Who am I? I know that when I'm like sharing this right now, I'm feeling like like a deep sadness, you know? And really like the next step, and this is a very Buddhist approach, by the way, of just meeting reality as it is and accepting things as they are. That's the next stage. After you've managed to let go, surrendered, now what's next? This is how things happened, and there's nothing I can do to change that. So this moment of acceptance is like, again, this huge Buddhist moment. And as Pema Chodron, one of the best books, definitely one of the best books for psyche knots, when things fall apart, it's like I call it the sobering, tongue in cheek, this moment of becoming sober. The moment that you truly wake up and you realize, wow, this is how things are. And Pema Chodron says, she has this, my favorite quote from the whole book. She says, if you knew that things will never get better, like what you have today is the best you're ever going to be. Right. And this is like a very contrary approach to like the new age kind of lifestyle of things get better every day. I'm going to improve, more of this, more of that. Work on myself. Pema Chodron says, what if where you are right now, right this moment, this is the best life you're ever going to have. It's not going to get any better. Then how will you live your life then if you just knew that? So this moment of acceptance, seeing the first of all, accepting the imperfections about life, seeing the imperfect for what it is, as perfect. This is all part of the maturation, becoming older and wiser about life, accepting that our parents, for example, going back to that example, our parents will never be what we needed them to be. Ever, right? We can have conversations with them. We can talk about the past. We can receive their apologies or we apologize to them, whatever needs to happen. But there is like a freedom and just understanding, okay, this is who they are. Okay, what now? What's next? There's complete freedom of, wow, I can literally, I don't have to be attached to this outcome that I needed. And then, of course, taking responsibility for the inner child, which is the next hallmark, right? Talking about the mother complex, the father complex, everything about early childhood, primary caregivers, attachment styles comes out really strong in ayahuasca. And then acceptance, and then taking your inner child in your arms, and then you stepping into the role of the elder and the parent, right? And this acceptance ultimately leads to forgiveness. Forgiveness is another huge component of the ayahuasca transformational arc. First of all, forgiving yourself. And this may be the hardest part, by the way. For me, my experience was that I forgave tons of people that I had grudges with. And then one moment I realized, wow, actually, I haven't forgiven myself. And this was the hardest part for me. Forgiving this human experience. Again, it's not what they promised us. It sucks, to be honest. Sometimes it really sucks. It's difficult. This reality, this simulation is not easy. I mean, look at what is happening in the world, the war, the suffering, the death, the separation, the conflict. The simulation is hard. And then, of course, forgiveness is like, as far as integration goes, if we think about forgiveness as an agent, a change agent, this is the way to mend and repair and come back home. This is what is integration. It's bringing all the parts back home. So forgiveness is huge. And then the next stage, once we've done all this inner work on who we are in relation to this reality, again, going back to relationships, who we are in relationship to our closest reality, our immediate reality. Once that is cleared, then the next stage is going to be opening up to what we call the transpersonal, to that which is outside of ourselves, the life outside of us. What else is out there? Who is my community? How can I be a part of that in a beautiful and creative way? How can I be of service to others? Right? Once we're done with all the preoccupation with ourselves and our own wounds and healing, which is like, it's a huge process, can take years and years. For me, it took many years to get just through that. But then it's like, okay, now that I know how to take care of myself, how can I take care of my community and how can I take care of nature? So that's a transformational arc with ayahuasca. I'm going to take a look at the chat, and then we have one more section to go, which is recommendations for coming back from ceremony. Okay. Any questions, comments? I'm going to look through right now. Julia says, I love that book so much. One of my faves ever. Definitely, highly recommend. Again, Pema Chodron, When Things Fall Apart. Life-changing book. Also very short. Not overwhelming at all in some ways. Andrea says, is there a visual of this arc, Shiri? I haven't created it. It's all from my mind. You can imagine it though, huh? Love experiences in ceremony. I'm not sure about this question. Please clarify, Maximilian, and then I'll get back to it in the Q&A. And Andrea says, thanks, Shiri. This is so good. Awesome. Thank you. Let's keep going. So again, we're technically supposed to be done by now. As you see, there's a lot to share. And we hope you can stay with us. I think it's going to be another 20 minutes or so. And if not, then there's a recording. I'm going to keep going. Okay, recommendations for returning from ceremony. So this is what I call the immediate integration. Immediate integration, and again, I've held a class about this before. You can find it in the membership area. What's the difference between immediate integration to long-term integration? There's two different stages of the post-ceremonial integration process. And the first stage is generally dedicated to recovery. Okay, recovery, it's more of like a yin stage, very feminine, resting, coming back, to put it simply. And then for ayahuasca specifically, we want to remember that the medicine will continue working. I mean, like physically. And I say physically because really the medicine will continue working. The medicine spirit is active with you as long as you're in dialogue with it. You can be in relationship with ayahuasca for many years, even if you haven't sat in ceremony in many years. Case in point, ever since my daughter was a baby, I used to take her to ceremonies with me. Then I realized how it was really challenging for me, and for many reasons, I decided to stop. I have been in relationship with ayahuasca for a big part of this time, not the whole time because of other things. But recently, I'm definitely hearing the call. She's been coming up for me a lot. It's been coming up for me a lot. I feel like the relationship getting stronger again. But the medicine physically itself will continue working for up to about 72 hours post-ceremony. So you still may feel sick, you may feel emotional, you may feel imbalanced. Allow the medicine to heal you. Take advantage as much as you can of this precious time. Nurture it for as long as possible. Make space for this medicine. This is the first recommendation for immediate integration. And the more stillness, the more the medicine will be active and the more the insights will continue to flow for you. So there's going to be more healing, more insights, more wisdom, more embodiment of, again, these codes that you went all the way to the jungle for. Can still receive them even when you're in the house. So ways to keep nurturing this relationship is to keep Dieta for at least a few days longer. The recommendation is a minimum of 3 days. Again, without caffeine, without red meat, without fermented foods, without salt, sugar, spices, etc. You really want to introduce those in moderation. Without sex, refrain from pork and alcohol for at least 2 weeks, refrain from other psychoactive substances for at least 2 weeks. Even 1 month, I would say, is best. Honestly, it's better to just not have a relationship with these compounds at all. So keep the Dieta for as long as you can, and then rest, sleep. Believe it or not, a lot of integration, our psyche processes through sleep and dreaming. It's a great way to integrate. It's sometimes also when there's overactive energy, the body wants to shut down so the mind can just kind of take off, so we don't have to like keep track of everything that is happening in our mind. It's a way to just really come. I'm going like this because it's a way to, again, coming back into stillness and letting the body and the psyche, letting the natural healing wisdom of our human experience get at the helm of our transformation for a bit, right? So it's a really great way to sleep. Engage in light physical movement, specifically light, avoid strenuous and impactful activities like running. You really want to aim to not disturb the physical state. You want to really like bring the physical state to balance, just gentleness. You can do, of course, you can walk, you can do yin yoga, very light and gentle movement to keep the energy flowing. You want to spend time in nature. Can you guess why? Ayahuasca is one of the greatest spirits in nature. You want to remain close to that spirit as much as possible. Go on a jungle walk if you can, sunbathe, pay attention to the natural world. Maybe you will gain a new appreciation for its wisdom and how you are a part of this divine order. I highly recommend hugging trees. I know this may sound like a big hippie woo type of recommendation, but try it and see what happens to your nervous system. It's incredible how trees and their energies can be so regulating to our bodies, to our emotional body, and of course, to keep us connected with, again, this natural order. Don't forget your support system. When I say support system, this is, again, true for any medicine. Specifically with ayahuasca, I mean, stay close to, if possible, to your people from the retreat, from your circle, the curandera, the assistants. Because, you know, what happens in ceremony, when we go through ceremonies together, there is a bond that is shared. And ayahuasca is a very collective medicine. When people were sharing their stories about last night, how suddenly it seems like this person is telling the story that you didn't even have the words to share. It's like we go to similar places, we visit similar realms, we share similar experiences. And there is a medicine that's woven in the group collective dream that we are a part of. So you want to stay close to that as much as possible. And of course, your integration community like Nictara. At Nictara, we have an ayahuasca integration program with people from different retreat centers. And it's all people that sat together recently and they speak the same language and we're all healing together, growing together. You really want to stay close to people who have been through what you have been through, right? That's the best support system. There may be a state of discombobulation. This can be common following big or challenging ceremonies. Maybe you'll feel confused, maybe unstable emotionally. The strategy for that, again, for feeling discombobulated, I've mentioned earlier, the grounding technique. Again, you want to do everything to ground back. Don't even think yet about trying to process your experience psychologically. You want to allow the body to process, but in a way that's healing and nurturing. So grounding, and again, speaking with people who are familiar with this modality that can validate you and hold you close and witness your journey so you don't feel like you're on your own. This is really important. Because we can come out like feeling very lost, right? And just that sense of feeling lost and feeling alone, that in itself can cause a discombobulation. Does that make sense? So when you immediately just like, again, just connect with someone, they hold your hand, you're like, oh, okay, I'm safe. Okay, so the idea here is creating safety. It's ideas that are very high, right? And basically it's vision, like huge visions. I need to become a shaman. I need to open up a retreat center. I must leave my job tomorrow and move to the jungle to be an assistant or serve the mission, right? Ideas. The rule of thumb, and by the way, this can happen with any medicine, specifically with ayahuasca. The rule of thumb is going to be to wait at least 1 month. As one of my ayahuasca teachers says, if it feels like a really good idea now, and it is a really good idea, it's still going to be a really good idea next month. So there's no rush. And nevertheless, if you're feeling excessive energy, if you're not able to sleep, if you're finding yourself speaking rapidly, having huge ideas about life, ready to make huge changes, this is going to be a time to seek the support of a therapist or someone else that you trust. It's uncommon to experience what we call grandiosity, disjointed from reality. And you really want to just hold your horses and not move forward with any big visions. Of course, if you had a vision or insights about needing to make changes about your health, to quit smoking cigarettes, to go get regular massages because there's a part of your body that's tense and you really want to follow up on that, to stop eating a lot of sugar, definitely do that the next day. Good time to do that because it increases your wellness, your physical wellness, and you really want to capitalize on that fresh energy, that you're motivated. You know why you need to do this. Again, physical wellness. Come on, we all know how, right? Like what sugar does to the body. We know that's not an idea by any stretch of the imagination, okay? Quit that. But to make big life changes, I'm going to talk more about a strategy, how to know if like you need to move forward with this vision or not, okay? So just a minute. But the idea of like, okay, seeking a therapist, I want to talk about that for a moment. So when is the time to see an integration therapist? Generally, for people who are on a long-term transformational journey with plant medicine, psychedelics, using a variety of compounds, it's a really great idea to work closely with an integration specialist, coach, clinical therapist, but someone that's integration specific. And here's why. An expert trained in it is trained to observe and pinpoint blind spots that are anticipated on the healing journey. When we go through journeys into our like deep inner world, it can create a high level of self-absorption, and we can't necessarily see what it looks like from the outside. But someone else can. They can observe things, these blind spots, if they're not articulated, dealt with immediately, it can bring unnecessary confusion, and they can also prolong the healing journey and cause it to be a lot more tumultuous and disorienting than it needs to be. It's already very tumultuous and disorienting. An integration specialist will be able to observe these things, help you go deeper, and get to your goals faster with a lot less struggle and a waste of resources. If a person that you're committed to this modality, you're working through a lot of personal issues, a season of growth, highly recommend to work with an integration therapist. It's a good investment. When does it become mandatory? Integration therapy is invaluable for people who are healing trauma, managing mental and physical health. Any psychedelic compound has a high potential to unlock repressed trauma. Every single one of them. But ayahuasca is probably at the top of the list. It has a tendency, as we talked about earlier, to reveal complex relational trauma or early childhood trauma that is more difficult to heal. It takes longer for the fact that, different from traumatic events, like a single unforgettable event, acute trauma, like a car accident. A person knows that they've been through a car accident. It was a huge event in their life. They have PTSD from that. They know they need to work through that, right? Complex trauma, early childhood trauma, is characterized by repetitive and nuanced experiences of neglect and abuse. It happens through the behavior of the primary caregivers. And similarly, it will come out through behavior and interaction with others. When we behave in ways that are rooted in early childhood trauma, and which causes us to behave in certain ways with other people, when we behave like that, we don't know that we're behaving like that necessarily. More often than not, we're unconscious that we're behaving in these ways. Hence why relationships don't work for us. Hence why I'm not happy at my job. We don't know that we're not aware of our behaviors. But an integration therapist that's trained to observe and articulate this trauma and its symptoms will be able to articulate, pinpoint, and help you heal these behaviors and this trauma. So basically, because it's relational trauma, it will be healed through a corrective relational experience. We have, of course, at Nictara, a whole list of trained and carefully vetted therapists and guides on our website. I'll put the information for that in a minute in the chat. But also another thing you need to think about is definitely connect with, let's say that you don't have trauma or anything like that, but If it's still been a few days and you're struggling to return to baseline after your ceremony, like you're having trouble sleeping, you're having trouble eating, having trouble regulating, maybe some trouble functioning, definitely connect with therapists as well. Because after a few days, there needs to be a rebalancing. And if there still hasn't been, then something deeper wants to come up, and you want support for that. Okay, a little bit more about integration of insights. So as mentioned in the first immediate stage, or the recovery stage, it's recommended to not take any action aside from insights about improving your health and wellness. We talked about that. You want to move more. You want to, ayahuasca showed you that, you should sing more, that you will have fun playing instruments. Definitely do that, right? But the bigger insights, like having forgiveness conversations with others, right? I would recommend to wait, at least 10 days following the experience. Why? Because the insights that are gained in the jungle, right? If you're going on a jungle retreat, now imagine you're transitioning your way from the retreat environment, which is a total cocoon. Then you're teleporting back into your home in Europe. What did we have here? NYC, okay, perfect. Coming back to your NYC apartment. The urban jungle. So when you make that transition, right, from one jungle to the other, the insights will continue maturing and adapting to our default environment and lifestyle at home. Suddenly, I'll give an example, right? It really made sense to walk barefoot. Like I saw how connected with the earth I am. I want to do this every single day now. I'm going to do this when I get back home. And then you're on the plane back to NYC and you're realizing, well, I think if I walk barefoot, on the streets of NYC, it's not going to look good. Like I really got to think through about how to implement what seemed like so true in the jungle. I got to think about how to integrate this idea into my current reality. Okay, so ways to do that would be, okay, I need to make space on my schedule to go to Central Park for 20 minutes a day so I can put my feet on the bare earth. Or if I really had the insight of, dear God, I need to just live in a place where I could just be barefoot on the beach at all times. Well, guess what? Maybe it's going to require you to move to Costa Rica so you can literally walk barefoot all day long. And that integrating that idea to support this vision, clearly it's not going to take a day, right? So you want to think through, our environment is going to be affecting the insights. And our insights will be informed by the reality that we're stepping into. It's going to inform our perspective. Our perspective on these insights likely will change. And that's why we say you want to wait until you make big moves so you could literally get in your default mind for a moment to kind of see, okay, how can I make this happen in a healthy way? When we make any medicine-related decisions, these decisions must include considerations both from the jungle world and from our everyday world. That's the balance. And the idea of integration is build that bridge that will help you facilitate this exchange in a healthy and sustainable way. That's going to keep your human well no matter what. And that's the key. You're human. We're operating in this realm, in this default mode. I live in Costa Rica. I literally live on the beach, by the way. This was something that took me 3 years to integrate. But I did it because this is the lifestyle that I wanted. But it didn't happen overnight. There were a lot of things that had to happen for me to actually create this vision. A lot of things had to happen for that. It wasn't an overnight thing. And the goal for me was, no matter what happens, I need to have a mother. I need to be grounded. I need to wake up in the morning. I need to go to work. Like, I got stuff to do, no matter what the medicine tells me. I got stuff to do. So I need to be well no matter what. And if it takes 3 years, so be it. But I'm not going to completely change my life overnight because of some vision. I mean, it's not healthy and it's not sustainable. So here are some simple questions that can help you mediate this exchange. Let's say that, again, you have this vision, you want to make a change, you're not sure how to integrate. I'm going to now list a list of questions for you. And you know what? I'll even put them in the chat for you. when you're thinking about a vision, name your vision right now. Even go through this exercise right now as I read through. Take any one of the visions that you had that you may be feeling uncertain about or curious about, and walk through this. First question, is it true? Second question, if this decision was made or implemented today, how will it affect my life tomorrow? What will life look like in 6 months or in 1 year? Third question, what exact steps need to be taken to implement this decision? How long will it actually take, realistically? Next question, who else will be affected by this decision? And how will it affect them? And then finally, what is possible if this decision was implemented not now, but in 1 month or in 3 months or in 1 year? So walk yourselves through. Again, just you can journal on them. You can just meditate on them, whatever works for you. But take a moment to practice critical thinking. Believe it or not, critical thinking and discernment are probably the best tools for integration because they're human skills that'll keep you grounded here on planet Earth. And this is where we live, okay? Remember that the medicine doesn't give us what we want. It's going to give us what we need through the limitless possibilities of the wise spirit of plant consciousness. There's a huge part of leaning into the great mystery and not knowing. Not just ayahuasca, but this modality in general. What we can do is implement using very specific tools that can help us make the best decisions for ourselves, but also remaining open to possibility. That's the balance that each person must find on their own, as far as what's right for them, what's kind for them, what's healthy and sustainable for them. The journey is going to look different for different people. Self-honor, right? Because only when we can honor ourselves properly, then we can honor others and honor the planet. When we care for ourselves properly, when we love ourselves to that extent, then we're able to love another person and to love the planet. So know thyself so you can love yourself, and then you can love all. And then, of course, what's the medicine for that? To love all is be kind. Be kind and always tell the truth. And by the way, these two practices, if you're looking for like the integration practices that will give you like the most bang for your buck, quote unquote, just try to be kind at all times and try to tell the truth at all times and see what happens. Super, super deep medicines, these two practices. And I want to leave you off with that today. And also just by reminding all of us that really, what is the medicine? Ayahuasca, it's a consciousness, okay? It's a spirit consciousness. Believe it or not, it's not the medicine. You know what the medicine is? Community. The healing is community. We all, at the end of the day, spiritually speaking, we're looking to belong. We're looking to return home. We're looking to heal the wound of separation from our mother. We're looking for our tribe. So returning to community, sitting in circle, contributing, serving, again, finding that sense of belonging and finding your own medicine in community is the medicine. We're going to do some Q&A now. We're going to do 4 minutes Q&A, and I'm going to tell you also, I'm going to put in the chat, number one, if there are some people here that are not members of Nictara, please use this link to join right now and use the code Shiri for 10% off. So you can have access to all of our classes and hundreds of resources. By the way, we haven't publicized it yet, but I just wrote this, probably the most comprehensive integration program available in the whole world. I'm saying this with a very high level of humility. It's a playful integration process. We haven't launched it yet, but I believe that if you're a member, you will get free access to it. Pretty sure of that. I think it's going to launch next month. Second, if you want to do some one-on-one work with me, here is my direct link to book a session. And then if you're interested in the preparation program that I shared about earlier, which is also, you get it free if you are a member for sure. But if you just want to purchase the program without committing to membership, no worries at all. You can do so with this link. And did I miss anything? Oh, and of course, if you want to learn more about me and my work, just go on my website, psychedsoul.com, and maybe grab a free playlist or something and join my community. Now I'm going to look at the chat. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Another couple of minutes we have. Regarding the question about love, Maximilian, can you please clarify exactly what you are asking?
Yeah, so in one ceremony, I had like the energetic experience of love for another person. So is that like symbolism, or is that literal, or what could be the interpretation?
Yeah. Okay, so interpretation of specific insights, this is something that can be done and should be done when there is a lot more context to the ceremony. Like, I actually now have a lot of questions to understand your experience better, so I can give you the best answer. But generally speaking, I would recommend always to look at, not to take things literally, right? To look at things as symbolic, archetypally, and the characteristics. And that's what I can say about that now. It's not, we talked about how critical thinking and discernment are really important tools in the integration process. And you always have to question, you have to think about, at the end of the day, if we look at the the ayahuasca consciousness as a consciousness, who says that consciousness is the truth? It's just like another person coming to me and saying, hey, by the way, blah, 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 telling you a bunch of stuff, right? And then, like, are you immediately just going to take things at face value and internalize them? Or are you going to take a moment and think, again, ask all the questions that I said. Is it true? Right? You want to really take a moment and reflect on them for yourself. And as far as like, if you want more interpretation, I can definitely do that through one-on-one. I do analysis through one-on-one work for sure. So feel free to book a session. Okay. Let's see, what else? Okay, just one or two more questions because we're really done for today. Meditation on an empty belly. Just my recommendation would be to feel grounded in your body, whatever that looks like for you. The integration program, what is it called? Where to find it? Okay, so to be honest, I'm not sure that it's advertised through Nictara, but here's what you can do. If you go to Soltara, they have it listed on their website. You'll find it there. And then I've been having intense dreams after journey ended a week ago. Can the ayahuasca journey in spirit affect my partner? You mean your romantic partner? If the ayahuasca spirit is affecting you, it can absolutely affect your partner. Definitely. You want to really think about how, like, our energy, especially like after ceremony, is very porous, very fluid. So your energy can be like very strong. And yeah, if the person is sensitive, absolutely, they can get affected, 100%. Any other questions? Do you guys have any remarks about this class? Put them in the chat for me so we can get some feedback. We want to know what you guys love so we can always give you the best content. Please put it in the chat. We do have to conclude. And I want to conclude for today by saying thank you so much to everyone that joined our call. And to take a moment to just say a prayer. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can. You absolutely don't have to. Just to get centered in your breath. Taking a big inhale and giving gratitude for the massive privilege that we have by even knowing what ayahuasca is. One of my dearest ayahuasca teachers used to always begin his ceremonies by saying, if you're sitting here in circle with us today, just know that you are one of the luckiest and richest people in the world, top 1%, most privileged. So thank you so much to the spirit consciousness that is ayahuasca. Thank you so much to the medicine keepers, the elders, the people that have been keeping this wisdom for millennia, the land keepers. We pray that we can be in reciprocation with you as we borrow your technologies, your traditions, and utilize them for our own healing. And we hope that we can do so with kindness and reverence. The medicine of forgiveness continue to permeate the earth and all beings. So there will be complete and total integration, and everyone can return home. May all beings be happy, safe, and free. Thank you so much. Blessings to everyone. Thank you, and we'll see you at our next class, okay? Blessings, everyone. Take good care. Bye-bye.